So in previous videos, I've alluded to codependent addictive relationships, and I've also brought up the concept of soulmates, okay? Well, how would a loving, soul-based relationship work, even if it's not with your soulmate, versus what we're all going around engaging in, which is actually codependent addictive relationships? Well, we can go through some of these things and talk about the differences, okay? But understand, and honestly, like the vast majority of relationships out there are codependent addictive relationships, okay? You may not want to admit this to yourself, but we are in a version of hell, okay? Now, because that's the case, we have to be really careful about who we are modeling our relationships off of, and are they healthy from the creator's perspective. What we're about to talk about, I've never met anyone in the physical world that truly has a loving, soul-based relationship, okay? So this is not stuff that I know. This is stuff that I believe, okay? Versus the principles that I know to be true, I project it onto how it would act in a certain situation, okay? So I'm going to talk about being in a soul-based relationship, but understand, like I admit, I've never actually been in one, okay? But I do have some idea of how it would go. And I've been in plenty of codependent addictive relationships too. So, again, I'll highlight the principles and maybe I'll try to share an example or two to show how these emotional addictions manifest in our relationships, because sometimes it's not so easy to pick it out, because if our addictions are not physical, oftentimes we convince themselves they're not even there. We can have emotional addictions, okay? In fact, most of our addictions are emotional. All right, that being said, let's jump in here, okay? So, types of partner relationships. What would be some examples or traits of a codependent addictive relationship? Okay, well, first, do this for me, I'll do that for you. What's another phrase that encapsulates this? How about compromise? Now, we are taught by everybody that compromise is a good thing, right? Hey, you know what? You want this, the other person wants this, or it could be a group or entity, whatever, this happens in politics all the time. One entity or person wants this, one entity or person wants that, okay? And you fight. Because oftentimes what each party wants is in contradiction with what the other one wants. So we're taught to compromise, right? Lessen your demands here, and you lessen your demands here, and we'll both make it work, right? That's what compromise is. In fact, for all of you history buffs out there, Henry Clay, the great compromiser, famous negotiator of the Missouri Compromise, which allowed, I think it didn't allow slaves in Missouri, but allowed them in Kansas, or maybe vice versa. Anyway, it was one of these compromises where neither side ends up being happy, and then the Civil War happens anyway. Okay, so how valuable was that compromise? I remember I had a 7th grade teacher that loved this guy Henry Clay, loved his ability to get people to compromise. Well, what good did it do if the country ended up in war anyway? In most compromises, if we're being honest with ourselves, both parties are dissatisfied. Now, why do we even need compromise? Because we don't have a connection with the Creator. And that's where this comes into play. So, on the codependent addictive side, you've got, I'll do this for you, you do that for me. I won't complain about you doing your thing. You don't complain about me doing my thing, okay? The soul-based, loving relationship counterpart to that would be challenge every single addiction with compassion. So like, let's say you're talking to your partner and let's say she's getting ready. Let's say you're getting ready to go to something, okay? And she starts putting on makeup. Why? Who are you putting on makeup for? Why are you putting carcinogenic chemicals on your face? If you cared about your skin, you wouldn't do that, right? Don't question me. I like how I look. I want to do it. Okay? But that's an addiction, right? Because either your own sense of self is being inflated because you're covering your actual appearance, or you are covering your appearance to project an image for other men or other women. Who taught you how to do this? Why do you feel it's valuable? Why do you feel it's necessary? You see, this is how it goes, right? Every addiction's challenged. I talked about drinking a latte in a previous video, building a relationship with God. How drinking that latte is an addiction of mine that covers my fear. If I'm in a loving soul-based relationship, my partner is highlighting this to me. Hey, you know, you're really just covering your fear, right? And I could say, yes, I am, and I accept that. I do not want to feel my fear right now, and that's why I'm drinking this. And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it. And you know what? From the partner's perspective, they can say, okay, they are aware of this, and I don't need to harass them about it. Now, that being said, it's on the person who's engaging in the addiction to do the work themselves, okay? So, you know, what goes along with this is the continual progression and development as each of us grow closer to the Creator, okay? So I might be acknowledging I've got an addiction, but I'm not saying I'm never going to work on it. Quite the opposite. I'm saying this is me acknowledging I know it exists, I know I engage in it, I'm telling you the truth about it, and I will assume the responsibility of engaging this. Thank you for letting me know, my loving partner. But we don't take it like that, do we? Right? Why do you question everything I do? You know? Can't I just enjoy this? Head up. Seemingly great in the beginning, but deteriorates. Who out there is in a relationship that's gotten better over time? And not just better emotionally, but better sexually as well. A lot of us don't even think that's possible. We explain away our sexual attraction. Or we say like, well, you know, I'm older now, so my sex drive is decreased, and therefore I don't have to have sex with my partner. Wrong. That's an error from the Creator's perspective. Our sickness and our aging and our disease is a result of emotional problems from our soul. There's no reason why our sexual desire would cease for our mate. If anything, it would grow over time. And think about it. God invented sex. God would like to see her children engaging in a process that she invented. But this stuff down here, like why sexual attraction is so intense in the beginning, is because sexual attraction is actually codependent emotional injuries that have crystallized down from your soul into your spirit body that create spiritual cords with your partner. And if you are in a relationship with someone for a long period of time, eventually your emotional state will change. And when it changes, that's when these cords shift, right? So if your partner is no longer meeting an addiction of yours, you may lose your sexual desire for them. And you're not going to be able to get it back because it was based on error in the first place. Conversely, the loving soul-based relationship is going to be difficult in the beginning, but lasts over time. Why? Well, because it's going to be difficult in the beginning because you're going to be full of addictions. And they need to be challenged. Your mate is going to be the most challenging person in your life. It is going to be the most challenging relationship you will ever have. Even more challenging than that with the Creator. It's easier to have a relationship with the Creator than with your mate. Because in order to really have a loving relationship, both partners, both mates, need to be engaging with the Creator and understanding her laws and receiving His love. Because then think about it, right? If you both have a relationship with the Creator, and you can ask the Creator's view of love on any particular topic, there's no need for you to compromise. Because you both have the understanding and ability to know what the most loving action in any particular situation actually is. You can come to the same conclusion separately. That's pretty loving, right? So it's not my word or my view or I said this. It's the Creator's view. That makes it easy. But we don't want to release our error, which is what we experience as pain. So we stay where we're at, okay? You will grow, if you're in a soul-based relationship, if it's with your soulmate, you will grow in intensity over time. You will develop a passion for them you didn't even think possible. All right. Addictions change as our state changes. Okay, so I alluded to this earlier. You're going to have emotional experiences just through life, whether you want to or not. Okay, so as you do, these cords of sexual attraction are going to change, right? Like a big one is anytime a woman has a child, anytime a woman gives birth. Huge emotional event. It's going to affect the sexual attraction between you and your partner, okay? Now, like a lot of men will say things like, they'll acknowledge this, but not in the way I just said it. They'll say things like, well, she's the mother of my children, so I don't really think of her as a sexual object anymore. And then men use that as a justification to philander and to cheat on their partner. If your partner is the mother of your children, why would you want to treat her poorly and cheat on her? Your children absorb that, by the way. The Creator's view of love never changes. The Creator is consistent and predictable. So that we know when we receive His point of view, it does not change. It is not flexible. It's always loving. So, like, in my situation with the latte, I know the latte is a non-loving action that I am committing against myself. It's not an evil action, but it's not loving, okay? And I recognize there's an emotional root underneath of that is even creating the desire for that craving. If I release the root cause emotion, craving goes away, right? Consistent, predictable. The Creator's view of love is not based on man's inventions or man's situation. It's constant, it's predictable, it's steady. It's correct, it's true, it's truth. The Creator's view of love is the truth. How about sex? In a codependent addictive relationship, your sex is based on error. Which means that you may feel a tremendous amount of physical pleasure, but guess what? As we've talked about in previous videos, your soul-based injuries leave you open to spirit influence, which means that when you're having sex with a person based on errors, you're actually having a spiritual orgy. Because other spirit people are hooking into your errors and pulling and manipulating. Because they want to share in the experience too, right? Because they're in a dark condition. Because they don't want to take responsibility for themselves. Think about that, right? They don't want you to know that one. Now, conversely, if you are healing your errors, if you are actively removing them, you are actively removing the ability for other spirit people to hook into you. And if you are engaging in a soul-based loving relationship and you want to have sex with your partner, guess what? It's just you and your partner. Have you ever even tried that? I guarantee you haven't. Sex based on love. Actual love. Real love. The Creator's view of love. Right? When you've got two people that are on each other's team, not only are they looking out for each other, it's not us against the world, it's we are helping each other. Because we know that we can be truthful and honest with each other when no one else can be. By being truthful and by challenging addictions with compassion, not projecting anger, but with compassion, we are being loving. That is loving behavior. Because we're in hell. And there's a whole range of stuff available to us, joy, pleasure, bliss. I mean, talk about, sex is about giving. And creating. Like, you can create more than just a physical child with sex. You can create whole universes. But it needs to be based on love. It needs to be a soul-based loving relationship. Okay? So, pretty much everyone's here. And pretty much nobody is here. But this is, for me, this is where I'm shooting. This to me seems great, right? Release your addictions. So you don't need stuff. Isn't that great? That's real freedom. And when you feel love for your partner, it's not an addictive love. It's not a need me, give me comfort and nurturing. Or it's not, I'll protect you, It's no, it is a back and forth. I love you. In every possible way. Difficult in the beginning. I know who my soulmate is. She wants nothing to do with me. I'm way too confronting. It's fine. I honor her free will. The Creator's view of love never changes. And that's what we should be basing our sex on. Because the Creator is the one who invented sex, right? Okay? More confronting material. I encourage you to feel out your emotions. Okay? Remember this stuff. And play around with it. Open up a dialogue. If you find yourself in this, open up a dialogue and see if you can do this. See if your partner's even open to it. Hey, I would like you to point out my errors, and I would like to point out your errors in a loving way, in an attempt to grow in love. See what happens. Love and peace, friends.